Welcome to the Verboten Manuscripts, episode 22. I'm sure you've heard the news. Before we begin our journey into this perplexing subject, a word of caution is necessary. The details we are about to explore are unsettling and can be disturbing for some readers. We will be discussing the unexplained deaths of animals, a phenomenon that has baffled law enforcement, veterinarians, and researchers for decades. The evidence is strange, the implications are profound, and the mystery remains unsolved. This is not a topic for the faint of heart, but it is one that demands our serious attention. The silence surrounding these events is as chilling as the physical evidence left behind on ranches and farms across the world, a silence that we must dare to break. The phenomenon of animal mutilation is far more than just a collection of strange stories or rural myths. It represents a persistent and deeply mysterious pattern of events that defies easy explanation. For more than half a century, ranchers and farmers have discovered their livestock dead under bizarre circumstances. These are not simple cases of predation or disease. The animals are often found in pristine condition, aside from the shocking and specific injuries they have sustained. The sheer number of cases, stretching from the American West to South America and Europe, makes this a global issue. It is a mystery that has been quietly unfolding in our backyards, challenging our understanding of the world we think we know. The primary theories attempting to explain these events are as varied as they are controversial. Some investigators point toward clandestine government programs, suggesting that agencies might be conducting secret biological tests on unsuspecting animal populations. Others propose that these acts are the work of esoteric cults performing ritualistic sacrifices. Though direct evidence for this is scarce, and then there is the most provocative theory of all, that extraterrestrial or non-human intelligences are responsible harvesting biological materials for purposes we can only guess at. Finally, the conventional explanation of natural predators and scavengers is often put forward, yet it consistently fails to account for the highly unusual evidence found at the scene. While these mysterious deaths have been reported worldwide, the epicenter of the phenomenon lies squarely in the United States. States like Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, and Oregon have become hotspots, with thousands of reported cases over the years. Ranchers in these regions have lived with this grim reality for generations, often finding their best animals targeted. It is important to note that this is not limited to cattle. Horses, sheep, goats, and even wild animals like deer and elk have been discovered with the same inexplicable injuries. This widespread and consistent pattern suggests a force that operates with precision and impunity, leaving behind a trail of questions that no official agency has been able to answer satisfactorily. What truly sets these cases apart from any known natural event is the nature of the wounds themselves. The mutilations are not the torn and ragged work of a predator. Instead, they are characterized by clean, surgical quality incisions. Veterinarians and pathologists who have examined the carcasses often describe the cuts as being made with an advanced heat-based instrument, something akin to an electrocautery. The tissue along the incision line is frequently cauterized, sealing off the blood vessels and preventing any bleeding. Organs such as the eyes, tongue, rectum, and reproductive organs are removed with incredible precision, often through circular or cookie-cutter-like excisions that show no signs of tearing. One of the most baffling and consistent features of these cases is the complete absence of blood. An adult cow contains several gallons of blood, yet at these scenes, there is rarely a single drop to be found on the animal's hide or on the ground beneath it. If the carcass blood drains into the ground, it could trick people into believing that it disappeared. It appears as if the entire circulatory system has been drained with near-perfect efficiency. This has led investigators to speculate that the procedure, whatever it is, involves a sophisticated method of exsanguination before the mutilations occur. How this is accomplished in an open field, without leaving any trace of equipment or struggle, remains one of the most profound puzzles of this entire phenomenon. Scavengers and natural decay cannot explain this total lack of blood. The scientific and technical anomalies extend beyond the wounds themselves. At many mutilation sites, there is a complete lack of tracks. No human footprints, no tire marks, and often not even the animal's own tracks. It is as if the creature was lifted from the sky, operated on, and then placed back on the ground. Furthermore, scavengers, which would normally descend upon a carcass within hours, often refuse to touch the mutilated remains. Carrion birds will circle high above, but will not land. And ground predators like coyotes and wolves will not approach the body, sometimes for days or even weeks. This unusual animal behavior suggests the presence of some unknown deterrent, something that nature's cleanup crew instinctively avoids. This evidence presents a significant challenge to conventional explanations. Natural predators do not carry scalpels or lasers. They tear and bite, leaving a messy scene of struggle and gore. They certainly do not drain their prey of blood before eating. Likewise, the idea that human pranksters or cultists are responsible seems improbable, given the technical sophistication required to perform these procedures. To carry out such an operation would demand veterinary knowledge, specialized surgical equipment, and the ability to work silently in remote locations without ever being detected. The consistency of the evidence across thousands of cases points toward a standardized, repeatable process that is far beyond the capabilities of random vandals. In the high desert of southern Colorado, on a ranch near the town of Alamosa, a single case in 1967 brought the animal mutilation mystery into the national spotlight. The victim was a 3-year-old Appaloosa horse named Lady, though she was affectionately known as Snippy. She was found by her owners, Burl and Nellie Lewis, in a state that defied all logic. Snippy's head and neck had been completely stripped of flesh, leaving behind pristine white bone. The cuts were perfectly clean, with no signs of hacking or chewing. Stranger still, there was no blood anywhere at the scene, and an odd medicinal smell lingered in the air. The investigation that followed uncovered even more bizarre details. A pathologist who examined Snippy's remains, Dr. John Altschuler, was stunned by what he found. He noted that the heart and other internal organs had been removed through the neck with surgical precision, something he described as being done by an expert. He also discovered that the cuts in the hide showed evidence of being made with a hot, sharp instrument, as the tissue was cauterized. Furthermore, a Geiger counter used at the site registered elevated levels of radiation in a few circular spots near the body, suggesting the landing marks of some unknown craft. The official explanation of lightning strike was quickly dismissed as it failed to account for any of these specific findings. The Snippy case became a template for the thousands of mutilations that would be reported in the following decades. All the classic hallmarks were present: the precise bloodless cuts, the removal of specific organs, the absence of tracks, or any other evidence of human or animal involvement, and the failure of conventional explanations to fit the facts. The story was picked up by newspapers across the country, And for the first time, the public became widely aware of this disturbing phenomenon. It opened the floodgates for other ranchers who had previously stayed silent for fear of ridicule to come forward with their own similar stories. This case marked a turning point. It transformed isolated whispered reports into a subject of serious, albeit controversial, inquiry. The evidence collected from Snippy's body was so compelling and so strange that it could not be easily brushed aside. It forced investigators, both amateur and professional, to consider possibilities that lay far outside the mainstream. The horse from Alamosa became a symbol of a deep and persistent mystery, a silent victim whose strange death raised questions about unknown technologies and potential non-human visitors. Snippy's story ensured that the animal mutilation phenomenon would not be forgotten, but instead would become one of the most enduring enigmas of our time. One of the oldest and most persistent ideas is that satanic cults or ritualistic groups are behind the mutilations. The theory claims these groups kill animals as part of dark ceremonies, taking organs for their rituals. But when we look closer, this explanation doesn't hold up. For decades, investigators have searched for evidence connecting cults to these animal deaths, but they've come up empty-handed. There are no ritual objects left behind, no candles, no symbols, no ceremonial knives, nothing you'd expect from a ritual site. And the animals chosen don't fit the usual pattern for cult sacrifices, which typically involve smaller animals like chickens or goats, not large cattle. So, the cult theory falls apart because there's simply no physical evidence or logical pattern to support it. The animals targeted are also much larger and harder to handle than those typically used in ritual sacrifices, making the cult explanation even less likely. Another theory points to secret government agencies. Some believe these groups are running covert programs to monitor environmental contamination or test biological weapons, using cattle as test subjects. This could explain the use of advanced technology and the surgical precision seen in some cases. The idea is that cattle act as biological samplers, helping researchers track toxins or diseases in the environment. But this theory also has major problems. No credible whistleblower or former agent has ever come forward with proof of such a program. And if the government wanted to keep things secret, why would they leave mutilated animals out in the open, risking public attention? The lack of secrecy and the bizarre public nature of the mutilations make this explanation hard to believe. The most common explanation, and the one favored by many officials, is that natural predators and scavengers are responsible, and that people simply misinterpret what they see. According to this view, an animal might die from something like a disease, an illness, or even from bloating. In other words, the animal passes away because it's sick or has a natural health issue. There's nothing mysterious or unnatural about it. Then scavengers such as birds, insects, and coyotes feed on the soft tissues, especially around the eyes, mouth, and rectum. The sun and wind dry out the skin, causing it to shrink and pull back, which can make the wounds look like they were made with a knife. But if a carcass is drained of blood or the blood seeps into the ground, it would seem like it disappeared. But this natural explanation doesn't fit all the facts. In the most puzzling cases, there are details that scavengers simply can't account for. For example, scavengers cannot open a jaw to remove the tongue with surgical precision. They don't drain all the blood from a large animal. The bones of a leg are not typically broken several times, or leave no tracks around the body. No known predator uses heat or lasers to make cuts. So, the presence of burned, sealed tissue just doesn't make sense. No scavengers have the ability to remove gallons of blood from a carcass. The skull cannot be cracked open by scavengers to remove the brain. Scavengers cannot separate or pry open the skull to expose the internal cavity. And if predators were responsible, we'd expect to see tracks or signs of their presence. But often the ground is completely undisturbed. When you add up all these details, it's clear that the scavenger theory doesn't really solve the mystery. Instead, it seems more like an easy way to avoid facing a much stranger and more complicated problem. This brings us to the most extraordinary and controversial theory, that these mutilations are the work of non-human entities, often referred to as aliens or extraterrestrials. This hypothesis suggests that visitors are conducting a long-term systematic study of Earth's biology. The evidence that supports this idea is circumstantial but compelling. The use of silent, unmarked aerial craft, suggested by the lack of ground tracks and occasional eyewitness reports of strange lights, is consistent with what is commonly described in UFO encounters. The advanced surgical techniques, far beyond what a human could achieve in a field, point to a technology that is not of this world. The silent, efficient, and untraceable nature of the operations fits the profile of a highly advanced intelligence. If we entertain the possibility of an alien harvest, the next logical question is, why cattle? Why would an advanced civilization travel across the stars to collect biological samples from our livestock? One compelling reason could be the unique biological position that cattle occupy. As large mammals, they share certain physiological traits with humans, but they are also a key part of our food chain, consuming vast amounts of grass and water from the environment. By studying cattle, an alien intelligence could gather a wealth of data about our planet's ecosystem, its genetic diversity, and the overall health of its biosphere. They could be monitoring for pollutants, studying diseases, or analyzing genetic material. Another possibility is that these beings are interested in the genetic material itself. Cattle, as a species heavily modified by human breeding over thousands of years, might represent a unique genetic subject. The aliens could be creating a genetic repository, a sort of Noah's Ark of Earth's life forms. Alternatively, they might be engaged in hybridization experiments, attempting to combine their own genetic material with that of terrestrial creatures. The removal of reproductive organs in so many cases lends strong support to this hypothesis. The blood, rich in DNA and vital fluids, would be an invaluable resource for any such genetic project, explaining why it is so meticulously collected. While it is impossible to know the true motivations of a non-human intelligence, these possibilities provide a logical framework for the observed evidence. An ongoing biological survey or genetic harvesting program would explain the long-term nature of the phenomenon, the specific organs that are targeted, and the high-tech clinical methods used. It would also explain the secrecy and the lack of communication. If this is a scientific study, the researchers may not wish to interfere with or alarm the subjects of their observation, us. They may view our planet and its life forms as a vast, living laboratory, and the mutilated cattle are simply the samples being collected for analysis. The mystery of animal mutilations persists not because of a lack of evidence, but because the evidence points in directions that are too uncomfortable for many to accept. For decades, the subject has been trapped in a cycle of ridicule and dismissal. Serious scientific inquiry has been hampered by a lack of funding and a fear of professional ostracism. Law enforcement agencies, lacking the resources and jurisdiction to investigate such strange phenomena, often close cases with a premature and unsatisfactory verdict of natural causes. This official reluctance to engage with the evidence has left ranchers feeling abandoned and has allowed the mystery to deepen over time. What makes this topic so compelling is that it lies at the intersection of science, law enforcement, and the unknown. The physical evidence is real, the carcasses are real. The financial and emotional losses suffered by ranchers are real. These are not just stories. They're documented events with physical bodies that can be and have been examined by veterinarians and scientists. The failure to find a conventional perpetrator after more than 50 years of investigation suggests that the cause is, by definition, unconventional. The puzzle is not just what is killing these animals, but how it is being done with such impossible precision and stealth. To move forward, we must approach this phenomenon with a new sense of openness and scientific rigor. We need an unbiased, coordinated effort to investigate new cases as they occur, using the full range of modern forensic tools. This would involve rapid response teams composed of veterinarians, forensic scientists, and physicists who can collect and analyze evidence before it degrades. We need to create a centralized public database to track patterns and share information across state and even international borders. Most importantly, we must be willing to follow the evidence wherever it leads, even if it challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the world and our place in it. The cattle mutilation mystery is worthy of our continued attention because it represents a genuine, ongoing anomaly in our reality. It is a victim-based crime where the victims cannot speak for themselves, and the perpetrators leave no calling card. Whether the answer lies in secret human programs, unknown natural phenomena, or the actions of a non-human intelligence, the search for that answer is a worthy pursuit. The silent fields and pastures of our planet hold a profound secret. It is a quiet, persistent question mark hanging over the modern world. And until we have a definitive answer, it will remain one of the most challenging and important unsolved mysteries of our time. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, remember to like and subscribe. By joining our community, you're helping to keep the search for answers alive. Stay curious and stay connected. We'll be here to bring you more untold mysteries from the shadows of the unknown.